Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today, what's special about today? Well, it's let's call it Revolver Day. So this is all about this, really. Beatles Revolver new stereo mix by Giles Martin and Sam Ockel. Released today. And I just, I popped out to raves from the grave this morning and well, you know, how can you not buy something as momentous as this? Although I have to say, this is possibly the first record I've bought specifically to make a YouTube video of, because I didn't buy the Sgt. Pepper's. Wasn't really of interest, and I'm not the greatest fan of remixes. I mean, if the original was really screwed up for some reason, then fine. But yeah, I've got to question why you would want to remix something, particularly something that is gone down in history as an absolute classic. So anyway, I've literally listened to this once, and I've just listened to my original once as well. So I've literally back to back listened to Revolver twice this morning. So let me just, to set the scene, I want to tell you about my long-standing copy of Revolver. Now, as you will notice, it's mono. I've had both mono and stereos, but over the years, in many kind of whittling down the record collection to make space, I've just ended up with my favourites, and this is my favourite Revolver. So if we I'll just show you in here. Obviously, as we know, it's mono, and XEX 6052 on side 1, XEX 6062 on side 2. So basically, this is the first, it's not the very first pressing. The very first pressing had a different mix of Tomorrow Never Knows. So they very quickly changed it, because that wasn't the mix that they intended to put on the record. And so this is the kind of the definitive first release, if you like, because they made a cock up. And that's kind of proof, that's kind of quite relevant here, because it goes to show that when they mixed these things, the whole band had to sort of sign it off. It was the fact that it was pulled and then this one released, it shows the importance of getting that mix right. So this record has been around for 56 years in this mix, which the Beatles thought was the best mix. I'll come back to that, but anyway, that's what I was using as my reference. Okay, so I'm going to take this song by song. I mean, I listened to the whole album, I listened to the whole original album, and then I listened to the whole of the new album. But I'm going to talk about this song by song. At least I'll start to, and we'll see how we go. But it doesn't take long before you start to get the gist, frankly. So, when you put on the original album, in mono particularly, obviously first track Taxman, and you're just, the thing that strikes you most of all, I think, is just the fantastic beat of guitar, bass and drums. They are a phenomenal band, a beat group, and they that's what drives the song, and it drives it with so much power, so much momentum, and it's very equal how the three or four, however you want to refer to it, but guitars, bass and drums, and even vocals, how they kind of add to that sensation of the beat and the drive. In fact, I'm actually going to go through my notes on the original second track, Eleanor Rigby. I've written here the same. Vocals superb, cello and strings are wonderful. But again, you're primarily focused on the beat. The cellos, the strings, the violin, sort of chonk, 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 kind of driving the time. It's all about the time. It's all about the beat. The individual elements that make that up sound fabulous. They sound wonderful. But it's all about the beat. And then we come to I'm Only Sleeping. Here you've kind of got I've written the bass drum and the voice are sort of paced as one. So it varies from track to track what is the sort of the primary driver, if you like. And obviously from track to track they swap who's the lead vocalist. That's just one of the many fabulous things about the Beatles, what makes them so special. But I think really what makes them so special is that you put a Beatles song on or a Beatles album on and you're just hooked. It grips you, it drives, and I'll keep saying over and over again the beat. But so I'm Only Sleeping. John's voice is quite distant on the original, and it's the bass and the drum that sort of drives this. And then you've got all these sort of backwards effects, backwards guitars, I assume. But they're really quite at the forefront. So it's again, they really drive the song. They kind of take part of the focus. If we go to Love to You, then we've got the sitar and tabla setting a massive amount of space, and I think at this point this takes you from the first three songs are very sort of beat driven, and this sort of chills you out, puts you in a much more contemplative, kind of open to spiritual kind of mood, if you like. And the voice is not, the voice is, again, the voice is sort of pitched behind the instruments, if you like. Here, There and Everywhere. It's a very soft, beautiful song, very soft. And in this one, the bass drum sets the pace. And it's, when I say the bass drum sets the pace in this, in some of the other songs, you don't even hear the bass drum really. It's obviously there, everything's there, but very back in the mix. And so it's very much depending on the song, what element they want to drive it, how they want to pitch it. So Yellow Submarine, a very different feel of song to the others on the album. And here, I think you've got the bass drum, certainly at the start of the song, the bass drum and a strummed guitar kind of set the pace. And then when the bass guitar comes in, with its sort of oompa-like kind of quality, that sort of joins in the pacing. And all the sound effects and that are quite loud and overlaid. I know we're talking mono and I'm doing this, but they add massive space. And then finally on side one, she said, on my particular pressing, and it is 56 years old, end of side, it gets a little bit messy, but it's John's vocal and the guitars are very overdriven. It's got grit, it's got power, and these I've written here that John's vocals and overlaid overdriven wild guitars, which are overlaid over really great drums and bass. Now, at this point, I'm going to go back and we'll talk about side one of the remix. I think because it's the way I'm going to do it. Right, so. Taxman. Immediately there's more separation, that's for absolute sure. There's more separation between every sound there, and here the bass seems to lead the pace because it's possibly a bit louder, but it's almost a bit one-notey and almost with a kind of vanilla colour to it. It's there, but it's less great sounding in my way. And there's a sort of in this song as well, there's sort of percussive noises. I don't exactly know what it is. It sounds like Ringo's hitting a bottle, frankly. That just sort of gets lost, whereas again it stands out on the original. Now, as we move from Taxman into Eleanor Rigby, it's worthy of note because this is a brand new record, just bought today, and my other one's 50-something years old, and there's no way you'd grade it better than probably VG. But there's a bit of rustling and pops between tracks 1 and 2 here, so it doesn't hugely bother me. I'm much more bothered about distortion in the music than random vinyl noises. But anyway, it's not silent. So we go into Eleanor Rigby. Now you've got, immediately what you've got apparent is that the strings are separated violins on the left and sort of, cellos, double basses, whatever, on the right. And it's whereas on the original you've got the beat, the violin sort of, chunk 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 kind of, I don't know what you call it, sort of stabby bowing, setting a time. It's a bit vague here. And the violins sound a bit thin and reedy, not natural or organic or real like they do. The tone of the violins and the strings and the cello on the mono is beautiful, and on here it's a bit thin and reedy. You can already get where this is going, can't you? Now, I'm only sleeping. So John's voice is definitely clearer. It's brought forward rather than being quite distant like it is on the original. But the bass and the drums don't really drive the song anymore. In fact, it's hard to hear the bass drum. And I think at this point I've written down here, it all sounds a bit weak. And I think that really is where I'm at with this. I don't want to go on and on and on about it too much, but it just, I think they've missed the point of what the Beatles are about, and what was so good about the Beatles. And it's a horrendous thing to do, but I just think they have. So I'm carrying on anyway. Love to You. I've just said it sounds a little bit messy here. Now, on the original, I wrote, all about its spacious, kind of opening your soul up, making you feel, opening it up to, a meditative, spiritual kind of space. Whereas this one, I've just written, it sounds a bit messy. The sitar doesn't seem to sit with the vocals, nor the drums particularly. Here, there, and everywhere. My comment on the original was soft. The bass drum sets the pace. On here, soft, okay. Although there's something funny about the voiceover, weird, hollow, tunnely kind of, like that sort of sound. I don't know. There's something very odd going on. And then Yellow Submarine. Talking of voices again, there's a nasal quality to Ringo's voice on this. His voice is much more stark than it is on the original, but it feels processed. The sound effects are sort of, crowd noises and sort of party noises and all that is pushed back into the mix, whereas it's sort of almost overlaid on top of the song on the original. And that kind of oompa bass, the real sort of old fun time kind of ragtimey kind of fun oompa music, real exuberant, like they're having a right bloody laugh on this. It lacks that exuberance. It lacks the fun. And again, for Yellow Submarine, that's killed it. It's killed it stone dead. And then the interesting. So okay, she said. last track of the song. So I said it was, maybe it was a little bit messy. Well, it's clearer on this, but it's lost the drive. And funnily enough, it still gets a bit messy. So, yeah, I don't know what I can say about that really. But anyway, that's side one. Now I'm going to go to find my notes for side two here. Bear with me. So, okay. Good Day Sunshine. I wouldn't say there's an awful lot of difference there. On the original, the piano sounds, it's a good, on the original Good Day Sunshine, it's a nice, thick, rich, deep sound, but it's not, it's not the most pristinely recorded piano you've ever heard. The drums set the pace definitely on Good Day Sunshine, I would say, with the bass and vocal kind of in time with that, obviously, but adding to that catchy kind of sing. On the new one, well, I've noticed there's still, I say still, there is a evident, slight vinyl noise. And basically the same comment about the piano. So they haven't improved the sound of the piano in the remix. And Your Bird Can Sing. Now, I think that's one of the most successful songs on here. It's a beautiful song. I mean, it really is a beautiful song. I think the drums have possibly been pulled forward a bit, but it's, the pace is good on this. I think on the original, it's the sort of the bass integrated with vocals and guitars that set the time. Maybe the drums been pulled more forward. They kind of set the beat here. It's not bad. It's slightly different, but it's good. For No One. That's an interesting thing. So, okay, talking about the original, it's a little bit messy sounding. The whole of Revolver, it's a thick mix. There's a heck of a lot going on. But the bass is really big and deep on this. The horns are really clear, a beautiful tonal quality. The harpsichord's just, it's a beautiful rhythmic element that just has its natural tonal colours and quality. And Paul's voice is rich and warm and velvety. Now, for No One here, vocals pulled forward, piano backward, harpsichord almost lost. It's lost its colour. It's just lost its. It may as well not be there. It doesn't really add anything. The horns are kind of lost. They just sound anemic and transparent. When I say transparent, without any body. The bass is one notey, and the voice is definitely not velvety. Now, in contrast, Dr. Robert. Again, possibly the best song on this album. All I can say is they haven't ruined it as much as they've ruined the rest of it. And you've got to bear in mind, this is all my personal opinion, but this is the personal opinion of someone who's certainly had this record for 35 years, maybe. I was only 2 when it was released, so I certainly don't know it from release. But, I've known it for a long time, 40 years maybe. And it's a great record. I don't think it's my favourite Beatles record. I think Sgt. Pepper and Abbey Road probably take equal first place. And I actually hold Rubber Soul in very high regard too. So it's up there, possibly alongside Rubber Soul, behind Abbey Road and Sergeant Pepper's, but a fantastic album. But anyway, get back to what I'm talking about, running through track by track. So I want to tell you, on this one, all you really hear is the snare drum. You don't really hear. This one for me is all about the guitar. It's George's song. It's got lovely cymbals. The guitar leads the song definitely, and there's sort of those sort of discordant keyboard, piano, just odd sort of notes that kind of come through. It's what the song's about. And this one again, it's like you've got the elements, but you haven't really got. It just feels like it's been mixed by someone who's been given a school book of like, okay, here's a bunch of words. It'd be like giving someone the lyrics to a song, but they've never heard it, and getting them to try and sing it without the music to go with it, and they don't know the rhythm, the pace, the expression. They don't understand what it's about. It's a bit like that, really. It's just it's not great. Got to Get You Into My Life. Again, similar to sort of For No One, really. The bass is nice and tuneful, but the vocals are thin and processed. The horns are very subdued, and the vocal is definitely not sweet. Whereas on the original, the vocals are a bit fuzzy, but the horns, bass, and drums really drive the rhythm. And even though the voice is a little bit kind of fuzzy, it's sweet. And anyway, last track, Tomorrow Never Knows. And this again, it just sets the, okay, I'm going to talk about the reissue first here. So the vocal is oddly veiled. And you've got, these strange sounds. There's a sort of an opacity somewhere in there, which is not particularly pleasant. The vocal is kind of just very matter of fact, very little kind of intensity or emotion in it. And the sound effects are very much in the background. Now, the notes I wrote about this. Now, most of us will have heard this over and over and over and over again for decades and decades and decades. So, the sitar, the drums, the bass, it builds this, hugely hypnotic rhythm. And it absolutely, it's psychedelic. It's kind of tripped out. It's fantastic. The sound effects are very much laid over. They're in the forefront there. You've got this hypnotic rhythm thing underlying these sort of sound effects and backwards noises, and the vocals kind of sung with like, angst and power and intensity. And that's the absolute utter majesty of the song, and really that's the utter majesty of the whole record. The thing for this record is its drive, its rhythm. It is kind of often sort of challenging because they throw in sort of off-key notes and backwards notes and weird sound effects, backwards guitars, crowds of people, weird sort of party noises, all sorts of crazy things going on. But it never, ever, ever lets up. From the moment you put your needle down in the first, the first run-out groove of side one, it just grips you. It rams itself into your psyche with drive and intensity and grip. But equally, every single song is challenging, but compulsive listening, and it's mind blowing. Whereas this, it's kind of it's just taken all those elements and just presented them in front of you like it's a school textbook. I suppose it's, maybe you could liken it to, this is going on an acid trip, and this is reading someone's description of an acid trip. Psychedelic masterpiece. Why have they done it? Now that's the kind of, a $64,000 question. Why have they done it? And I think I know the answer to that. I think that they've done it because, these days, I think this is aimed at, a younger market, people who really weren't around in the 60s, probably weren't around in the 70s or the 80s even. And they're coming across the Beatles on, in sort of iTunes playlists and things and just not getting it. And they've tried to sort of remix it to make it more modern sounding, but I just think they missed the entire point of what and how and why this album was created. It's not, it's not an awful lot of money. I mean, I bought a vinyl one. It cost 32 quid. You can buy it on CD for about 20 or 12 quid or something, I think. Or you can stream it. I have Tidal, which I'm going to change to Qobuz, I think, soon. But I think streams, listening to it over headphones, it's going to be a different experience, and maybe one that people who don't really know the original would enjoy more. But I think if you know the original, this is just a bit weird, and why have they done it? So, I'd say definitely give it a listen. I mean, everyone should give it a listen because, the Beatles are such a, momentous band. But, honestly, I could say the same about, I know I did this comparison between the Pink Floyd Animals, the new remix and the old one, which I'll put a link to up here. But for 50 odd years, I haven't had a problem with the mix of the original. In fact, I've found it compelling and utterly wonderful, and therefore, why have you done that? And I felt the same about Sgt. Pepper's. It's just, why? What makes Giles Martin think he can do a better job than his dad and the Beatles? I don't mean any offence to Giles Martin. I really don't. But yeah, interesting. I think the only times I'll play this will be, when I have friends around who say, "Oh, let's do a comparison." And out of interest, it's more of an out of interest thing. So yeah, for me, that's the one. Frankly, mono or stereo. I prefer the mono, but stereo equally good. It's just personal taste, obviously. But in terms of the mix, I don't think they actually get what is good about the original. I kind of think they missed the point. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please appreciate this is just my point of view on it, but I'm just trying to talk about what I hear between the two. I will say, the cover's nice. I notice this is made in the Czech Republic. That'll be GZ Media. This isn't the sleeve it comes. It does come in a poly-lined inner, which is nice. It's it's a beautiful flat, wonderfully pressed piece of vinyl. You know, I wish all my records looked and felt like that. But kind of, you know, yeah, it looks good, it feels good, and it's, you know, it's clear. But yeah, I don't think it's not the Revolver for me, he says, holding a revolver to his head. That's the one. Anyway, thank you very, very, very much for watching. And I hope you liked the video. Please appreciate this is my personal opinion. If you like the new one, you're not wrong. Of course you're not. Yeah, if you like the video, please like, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.